right, welcome. We've got some great stuff in our news roundup today. We've got a couple different things we're talking about. First, right off the bat, we're talking about Disney. They're finally finding a little bit of success in their video game market. Yes, they finally have a couple wins under their belt, both with Insomniac's Spider-Man, which sold like gangbusters, makes me want to buy a PlayStation 4 just so I could play this game, and Respawn's Jedi Fallen Order, also selling like gangbusters. It's fantastic. It's amazing. So why is Disney now finding success, and why weren't they finding it before? We saw Battlefront 1 and 2 sell all right, but then were really just panned by the audience. It was bad. And I don't need to go into the details. All of those details have just been beaten to death over and over and over again. We know about the loot boxes. We know about the grind. I don't think we need to go into that anymore. There's nothing more I have to offer about that skeezy business practice. So they ended up finding success by letting go of the reins a little bit. So they used to have their own studios, they used to have stuff, and they had very strict and regimented, this is what you have to do, and this, and this, and this. And that turned out some pretty crappy games. Disney wasn't able to make any money off of that, and so they decided to switch gears. Bob Iger really said that they're more about managing the risk rather than actually developing the games. They're better at that than developing, which is very evident. So when they licensed out Insomniac to make Spider-Man, we got a fantastic game. When they let Respawn do Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, we got an amazing game. It was so good. It was amazing. I'm having so much fun playing this. Me as Cal Kestis, just going around swinging my lightsabers all willy-nilly and just killing all the bad dudes. I'm having a blast in that game. So hopefully now that we see that, we've got Square Enix making an Avengers game. That's going to be so good. It's going to be amazing. We have to wait a little bit longer. That game was delayed, but I think the wait will be worth it. Especially since Disney now is able to see the error in their ways. I hope. I really hope. So as I've mentioned before, as it relates to Star Wars games, one good game is an accident, and that would be Spider-Man. Two good games is a coincidence. Your second good game would be Jedi Fallen Order. Three good games is a trend. So hopefully Avengers is going to be good, and they're going to trend into the land of good games, the land of great games, the land of opportunity and freedom. Oh, well, we're talking about Disney here, so there's not a lot of opportunity there. They just own everything. They own the world. They might be even owning this stream. Who knows? Time to get your tinfoil hats on, people. But I digress. We're going to get back around here, and we're going to talk about how this success is really shaping up in the gaming industry. I think with Disney just kind of backing off, yes, they still have Project Luminous, and you can find out more about Project Luminous right over here in my left-hand corner, your right-hand corner, or maybe it's your left-hand corner. I don't know. I don't know which corner you're watching this on. With this success here, with the things that have been going on in the gaming industry, 2019 had a lot of eye-opening moments, and for Blizzard, that continues to open their eyes into 2020, and hopefully they get their heads on straight and fix things. But we're seeing developers and publishers kind of being a little more honest, a little more relaxed with their creative purposes. Now, we can talk about campaigns and gameplay loops and loot boxes and all those different things. Those are all important components. Maybe not so much the loot boxes, but they're all components of modern video gaming. And with all the backlash that all these companies have seen over the last couple months and years, I think they're finally realizing that, yes, you can make a very good, by-the-numbers Call of Duty game. Let's face it, all the Call of Duty games, we know what we're going to get. We know it's going to be a first-person shooter. It's going to have some competitive type elements. The story mode probably isn't going to be great. And then I'm going to have a 10-year-old yell racial slurs at me online. We all know what we're getting, and that hasn't changed for the last 20 years of that entire series. So I think right now what other companies are doing are realizing that you can take some creative risks. I think the AA space that is coming back, it wasn't really called that before, but those not so much AAA games, but those AA games and maybe even the lower down indie developers, they're taking a lot more risks. They're throwing out great games. Look at what Shovel Knight did. That was a great game. Look at what Death Stranding did. That is a AAA game with an indie mentality and an absolute bonkers creative genius, maybe the weird guy who lives under a bridge that you pass and you're like, I don't know him. Don't make eye contact and he won't look at you. He won't beg. He won't. Yeah, Kojima is an auteur. He has got some crazy ideas, and they were on full display there in Death Stranding. So I think that with that success, yes, it was divisive. You pretty much either liked it or you hated it. There's no real in between. It wasn't like, yeah, it was good. It was, yes, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. Or yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. I did it. I played it. I didn't enjoy it. So I haven't played it yet. I'm waiting for the PC version. Who knows what's actually going to happen with that? But I'm glad to see that they're taking risks, and I'm glad Disney has said so much that they're like, you know what, we're good at managing risks, so we're going to do what I thought they should have done since the beginning. You want to make a great RPG, first-person, fantastic Star Wars story? Give it to the BioWare of yore, because the BioWare we have now is not the BioWare that we all remember for making Knights of the Old Republic. That would be more like Archetype Studios that Wizards of the Coast is doing, but that's a whole separate topic right there. I think that if you want to make a great first-person arena shooter, action-heavy, you give it to the guys over at id. Look at what they did with Doom. They've made it fantastic. I think that if you want to make something crazy, something out there, something really different, license it out to an indie studio. Give it to the guys who made Celeste. You'd have some kind of crazy, ridiculous, deep story, but it would all be fantastic. And you could tie it in. You could say, like, hey, yes, you get the license, but vaguely this is what the story has to be because it has to fit into Project Luminous. It has to fit into the overall canon of Star Wars. So there could be some constraints on this, but overall, I don't think it would be a bad idea. And speaking of bad ideas, the Sony PS5, as it is reported today, February 14th, 2020, is set to lose at least $50 per console. The current total of prices for all of the components in the PlayStation 5, as it is described, totals about $450. That is because of some of the parts that they use that are also used in phones, such as the Galaxy S20. So because that demand is so high, things are getting a little more pricey. Now, it's not uncommon for a console maker to sell a console at a loss. We've seen Microsoft do that. We've seen Nintendo do that. We've seen Sony do it. It's not uncommon. Hell, the PS4 sells at a $50 loss. Originally, the parts cost $450. Wow, about that. And sells for $399 for the Pro. Not uncommon. They can still make money in the end. It's not that big of a deal because selling that, they'll be able to recoup their losses in the various games and licensing fees to get your game onto a PlayStation. So that's not really too big of a deal there. It is what it is. I think everybody will be fine. We're still trying to wait to see what Sony is going to do if they're ever going to put out a price. Who knows? It might be what you feel like paying when it comes out, which I don't feel like paying anything, so I'll take it for free. Thank you. Most likely it'll probably be right around that $400 range. I would personally be shocked if it was more than that $400. But we'll see. Sony could surprise me. In case you weren't paying attention about 5 minutes ago when I mentioned Archetype Studios being the old BioWare, that's not really far off. They've hired another ex-BioWare developer. This time it is Drew Pearson. I really hope I'm saying that name right, but I have a long history of saying names incredibly wrong. But that's just what I do. I say names wrong. Hi, my name is the Retro Gamir. So, in case you are unfamiliar with Drew's work, he has worked on Neverwinter Nights, as well as Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect 1 and 2. He kind of left and came back, helped out a bit with Anthem. Anthem didn't turn out so great. We all know that. Yet they're still trying to plug that game and give it a second chance. Who knows? I digress. Bring it back around. Talking about you, Drew. Overall, he has done some fantastic stuff. He is a great writer, and he joins the fantastic team. He talks about on his blog that starting out with BioWare, it was his dream job, that he loved every second of it. He loved going to work. He didn't think of it as a job. He thought of it as going and hanging out with some friends and just making some great games. But as BioWare got bigger, they got more corporate, and he just didn't like showing up anymore. So with this new studio, Archetype Studios, opening, he was able to rekindle that magic. He feels like he's going back. He's a kid in a candy store. He just going out and making new games and just having a good time. He is joining them with making a new game that is a space-themed high fantasy RPG. So think of Mass Effect. It sounds like this game is going to be the spiritual successor to the Mass Effect series. The successor that we never got, that was Andromeda. That was not a spiritual successor. That was an actual successor. And that successor fell on its face into a pile of horse crap. Yeah, that's what happened. Now, we've got this game coming eventually. Hopefully, they'll be able to recapture that magic, that Mass Effect 1 and 2 magic, that Knights of the Old Republic magic, and just make a fantastic game. Who knows what it's called yet? It's still technically unannounced. And I think we'll all be waiting with bated breath to see what Archetype Studios ends up producing. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, give me a big old thumbs up. It really helps out the algorithm, helps other people discover this channel. I'd really appreciate it. If you really did like this, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. We have new content coming out all the time. Always remember to take a little bit of self-care. Take care of yourself both mentally and physically. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.